So today we're talking about justice, and if you haven't figured that out by now, maybe start to pay attention, right? Justice is the topic of today, and the title that I've given for this talk is Awkward Justice, or Learning What Love Looks Like in Public. And I chose the topic of awkward justice in that title because justice, and it's a bit of a confession, I'll admit to you all, that justice is one of those concepts that we just haven't really fully 100% found yet. For thousands of years, justice has been the topic of Western philosophy, certainly, and all over the world in different conceptions that we just can't quite seem to nail down all the time. And that's in a lot of ways because there's a lot of people in the world who believe a lot of things and have lots of different experiences. And it's different to get everybody to agree on what justice means. And so today, the confession is that I can't stand up here and define justice for you perfectly because we haven't exactly found it yet. Although as Christians, we do believe that God's justice is a sense of perfect justice. And this is why I believe when we pray the Lord's Prayer, we ask that His will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That the will of God, the equality that we have in heaven, would be on earth as it is in heaven. So a bit of a confession there before we start. But first we have to ask the question, what is justice? Now, I've just told you that we can't completely answer that, so you're going to have to humor me as I try to explain just very basically what I mean when I talk about justice. There's lots of different conceptions of justice in the zeitgeist, okay, and here are a few here. For those of you who, from between the ages of maybe 8 and 12, shopped at Justice, a clothing store for preteen girls. My daughter really likes Justice. Tights, all of that. It's a good place to go. So we call that Justice, a little heart there above the eye, very symbolic for our talk today. We have, in the bottom right-hand corner, you have Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Justice of the United States Supreme Court. In this country, we call people who are at the head of our court justices. We call them the thing that we want them to embody, justices. The notorious RBG, right there, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Next to her, we have a spray paint stencil taken from a picture in Ferguson, Missouri, after the killing of Michael Brown. And the refrain for a lot of activists in the wake of Michael Brown's killing was no justice, no peace. The idea that the streets could not be calm and there would not be peace in the city until justice was found for Michael Brown's death. Above that, we have the U.S. Department of Justice. This is the section of our government that deals with law enforcement, the courts. The head of the Department of Justice in our country is the Attorney General. Okay, so we've come a long way from preteen girls' clothing, the same word to describe all these different things. In the bottom left-hand corner, we have the Justice League of America, helmed at various points by Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman, and we have superheroes in our society, prevalent, pointing us toward justice, taking down bad guys, giving us a sense of right and wrong, the Justice League of America. And then in the upper left-hand corner, we have the International Justice Mission symbol. And it's here that I'll give you all a heads up. I've got 2 mics in the aisle, and I'm going to ask that people participate this morning when I ask questions, because I think one of the best ways for us to talk about justice is to actually have a conversation about it and to get a sense of where we are on these different concepts. So at various points in the talk, I will ask if anybody would be willing to come down to one of these mics. Now, I will warn you. Okay, now if nobody comes down to the mics, I have a wireless microphone right here, and I will come find you, okay, like Billy on the street. Okay, I'll come find you out there, and I will figure out who is willing to tell me what they think about justice, okay? So just be prepared for that. Now, is there anybody here who knows what IJM and knows what International Justice Mission? Okay, I see a hand right there. Would you be willing to come and just tell everybody what that is really quickly? As she's walking up, let's give her a hand. Good job. Wonderful. Okay. Good morning. And what's your name?
Dima.
Say that again?
Dima.
Dima. Thank you, Dima. All right. Now, what do you know about International Justice Mission?
It is a nonprofit organization that works to help break down prostitution rings and sex slavery.
That's right.
Especially in overseas, but also can work in America.
Very good. All right, let's give Dima a hand. Very good. Okay. So the International Justice Mission, okay, our sixth instance of the word justice up here, is an organization that, as Dima points out, tries to end sex trafficking, and they do that through a number of different means. And one of the stories that I'm going to tell this morning, I first heard from the president of International Justice Mission. But of course, when we think about justice, you'll notice there's lots of different conceptions of justice. Are the people in Ferguson, Missouri talking about the same thing as the Justice League? Or is the Justice League talking about the same thing as the International Justice Mission or Ruth Bader Ginsburg? So when we talk about justice, these things refer to all these different things. And so it's a word that can be confusing. And I want to make a distinction between two kind of larger conceptions of justice, just so you get a sense of the differences. You have retributive justice and social justice. Okay, retributive justice, it sounds like a big word. It just refers to retribution. Retributive justice is a sense of justice that focuses on punishment and discipline. Somebody does something that's illegal or wrong, and something must happen to them as a result of that. If I were to go to President O'Brien's house and steal one of his signed guitars, okay, he has a few, and the police were to come find me, I would be charged with theft and breaking and entering, and I might have to go to jail or I might have to pay a fine. Okay. Another example of retributive justice is in the wake of the events of September 11th, 2001, as a country we were asking who's responsible for this and what should happen. Okay. So we invaded Afghanistan and Iraq, partly in a quest for that. But also several years later, under the Obama administration, Osama bin Laden was killed in Pakistan. Front page news all across the country. We felt that we had achieved a sense of retribution in this country for that action because of that. So that's retributive justice. That's one kind of sense of justice. The other sense of justice, and one I think we're going to spend the most time with today, is social justice. Social justice focuses on conditions in our society that have to do with equality, fairness, that people are treated equally under the law. Martin Luther King Jr. in 1963, with his I Have a Dream speech at the March on Washington, famously said that he hoped that someday the children would be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. When we talk about social justice, we're making that connection. So I think a lot of times when we're talking about justice, we get these things mixed up. And, people who tend to care a lot about law enforcement and the military and things like that, we hear somebody talk about social justice, and they'll be like, well, that's not justice, right? So it's important to notice that there are different conceptions of justice. Okay, so that distinction is really important. Now, the title for the talk today was Awkward Justice, Learning What Love Looks Like in Public. And so I want to suggest to you that one of the ways that we can try to understand justice better is by understanding charity. Charity is a concept. And I think that even if we can't completely get to a place of social justice, that a pathway to social justice is in charity. In some ways, they do different things, but charity can kind of get your foot in the door. So here's what I mean by that. So what are we talking about when we're talking about charity? So again, I have pictures, okay? In the upper right-hand corner, you have all those ribbons for the various causes. Susan G. Komen, Race for the Cure, is the pink one, I believe. You have lots of different colors for ribbons and causes. In the bottom right-hand corner, we have Santa and the bucket of coins for the Salvation Army. We think of charity as giving money to charity. Okay, Catholic Charities USA. Charities become a name for organizations. So like Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, we call organizations that do charity charities. So you give money to charity. In the middle there at the top, you have, Chad told me I have a laser pointer. I'm going to try this. Yeah, there we go. Okay, of the middle there, you have the Sisters of Charity, which was it's an order of Catholic nuns in Calcutta. And in particular, their most famous representative was Mother Teresa of Calcutta, who was a Polish woman who gave her life to working in the streets of Calcutta with people who were hungry, dying, and all those types of things. And in your reading about Shane Claiborne, you heard about some of that. But they called themselves the Sisters of Charity. Next to Sisters of Charity, in a very kind of small thing, you have an icon for the Ice Bucket Challenge. How many of you here made an Ice Bucket Challenge video when it happened? Oh, come on. You guys don't care about ALS, I guess. I guess you don't. I'm just kidding. That's a joke. Obviously you do. But maybe. So you did this video, right? And what was the premise of the Ice Bucket Challenge? Can anybody go to the mic and tell me what the premise of it was? Anybody? Oh, do I get to go get the mic? Anybody willing to talk about the Ice Bucket Challenge up there? Really quickly. Yeah, all right, go ahead. Wonderful. What's your name?
David.
David, all right. What was the Ice Bucket Challenge, David?
So I'm fairly sure the Ice Bucket Challenge, the premise was that you either had to donate to an ALS charity or make an Ice Bucket Challenge video and then challenge your friends to do it as well, where they would either give to the charity or make the video.
Right. Right. And the goal, good. All right, everybody give David a hand. Good job. Good work. I haven't had to come find you yet. Okay. So the Ice Bucket Challenge, the idea is that you're raising awareness and money for charity around ALS through social media campaigns. And for many of us, this is how we interact with charities now. You like a Facebook page. You post a video telling people to go to an event. You do some political advocacy online, and you post an article and talk about it. Okay, so charity is no different. And then the bottom left-hand corner, you have probably, one of the more well-known ideas of charity, which is giving food to the homeless, feeding the hungry. So with charity, rather than thinking about larger structures of inequality, with charity, what we're thinking about is an immediate need that we see in front of us and meeting it. Okay? And this is kind of what Shane Claiborne gets into in The Irresistible Revolution. He has all these questions. He's reading these texts at Eastern University with Tony Campolo, famous Baptist thinker and writer who wrote a lot about justice and charity. And he goes to India to learn about poverty. And he does. And he learns it through the example of Mother Teresa, who we'll talk more about in a moment. But, of course, if you read all of The Irresistible Revolution, Shane Claiborne talks also a lot about justice in his community. And Shane's way into justice was by paying attention to the people that he was serving and what is the reason why they are in this place. All right. Are you with me? Everybody good? Paying attention? Y'all are tracking pretty good. I don't see a lot of heads down. You're doing pretty well. So we're going to go into the second phase of the talk now. I've introduced charity and justice. We've made the distinction between social and retributive forms of justice. Okay, we've prayed together. And now I'm going to tell a story. And stories are very important. One of the things that I do is I study stories. I'm a scholar of American literature and culture. And I kind of believe that stories offer a way for us to think about these larger concepts, even concepts like justice, that we might not be able to completely understand. Okay, so I'm going to tell a story. And I want you to pay very close attention, because after I'm done telling the story, we are going to have a little bit of an argument. Okay, we're going to have a little bit of an argument about the story and what it means and what should happen. Are you ready? Say, I'm ready. Are you ready? That was tepid. Tepid. You can Google that word later if you don't know it. That was pretty good. Okay. So here we go. So there's a woman. And a woman is walking around the forest one day, minding her own business. It's a beautiful day. And all of a sudden, she hears a sound. It kind of sounds like a child crying. And she goes toward the noise, and she comes out of the forest, and she comes to a river that's flowing. And she looks into the river, and she sees a child, arms flailing, like freaking out, right? And it's a little kid, maybe between the ages of 1 and 3. Don't have to be too specific. But it's obvious that the kid can't swim. And she says, oh my goodness. She jumps into the river to save the kid. What does she do? She grabs the child, swims the child to the shore, drops the kid off at the shore, feels pretty good. Just as she's starting to catch her breath, she looks back in the river. And what does she see? She sees another child coming down the river, floating down the river. She says, oh my gosh. So she jumps back in. I'm going to go get the child. Swims back to the shore. Now she's got 2 kids on the river. Catching her breath. Does it again. What do you think happens next? Anybody? What do we got? What do you think happens next? There's another kid in the river. Absolutely. They just keep coming. And so she goes to the river, gets the other kid. She's got 3. She does this 2 more times. And when I don't know how good a swimmer you are. I'm a terrible swimmer. Okay, I'm not very good. I get very tired from swimming, keeping my head above water so that I can breathe right. Okay? And she's tired. And of course, you would ask the question, why does this keep happening? Why are these children floating down the river. My goodness, like what is going on? Why is this happening? So she looks upstream against the current, and she sees a bridge. And on that bridge is a strong man. And a strong man is picking up children and throwing them into the river. What a terrible thing. She just sees them up on the bridge. They're picking up the children, throwing them in the river. And he just keeps doing it over and over and over again. And she looks and she sizes it up. He's pretty big. He doesn't seem like he's going to stop anytime soon. And so the woman has a dilemma. And this is what we're going to argue about. Do you think that A, the woman should continue to jump into the river, save the children that are floating, helpless, can't swim, gonna die? Okay, should she jump in there and help them? Or should she run down the shore, up to the bridge, and try to wrestle the strong man? By wrestling the strong man, she would stop this thing from happening. The children would not be floating down the river anymore. Now, I want to tell you this. Before you make a choice, you should know that in the time it takes her to get up to the bridge to wrestle the strong man, she's not going to be able to save some of those kids that are floating by. Okay, so she is going to have to make a choice between wrestling the strong man and saving some kids. Okay, so are you ready? You ready? We're going to argue about it. Now, who thinks that she should jump in and continue to save kids? Anybody? Anybody want? Okay, show of hands. This is a vote. I'm not going to take a picture, don't worry. Okay, one of you, actually two of you, who are willing to come down to the microphone on either side here and explain why you think she should continue to jump in and save the children. Anybody? Come on. Oh, do I need to get my microphone? Oh, I'm going to get it. Okay. All right. All right. Show of hands again. Who thinks? Oh, now you're not going to put them up. Who do we got? Who thinks she should jump in? I saw some hands over here. Who thinks she should jump in? Anybody? What do we got? Won't last long. I see some of my 101 students. I could grab them. Anybody? Show of hands. Say what? Orange shirt. Right here. You? Do you think she should? All right. For real, anybody? Front row? Over here? Ready to go? Who's up front? All the way over? Oh, back here. Thanks to Kyle Berry for pointing me in the right direction. I need more coffee, y'all. All right. Here we go. All right. What's your name? Marcus. All right. Everybody give Marcus a hand real quick. Now, Marcus, why should she continue to rescue the kids from the river?
Well, I mean, eventually he's going to run out of kids to throw, so, I mean.
Okay, so Marcus is working on an assumption that the man eventually will run out of children to throw into the river. Now, how do you know that?
Well, you never said he had an endless supply of kids to throw.
Okay. So, oftentimes what happens when I tell this story is we play a familiar game to everybody. I have two mics. I don't need talking to it. We play a familiar game, which is Would You Rather, right? And everybody else, well, what about this? What about this? How big are the kids? How fast can they swim? How many kids are there? How far away is it? You know, we get into all these just things. Okay. Give Marcus a hand for contributing. Okay. So working under the assumption, and Marcus, correct me if I'm wrong, working under the assumption that eventually it'll stop on its own. Okay. She should just keep rescuing the kids because maybe it'll stop. Okay. Good call. All right. Anybody else? Who else thinks she should go in there? Continue to rescue the kids. All right. Y'all don't want to argue. That's fine. We can just contemplate it. How many of you think that she should go wrestle the strong man? Hands up. Hands up. What do we got? All right. Wrestle the strong man. Okay, right here. Are you willing? No? What about you? You got it? All right. Okay. What's your name?
My name's Tyler.
All right, Tyler. Everybody give Tyler a hand. Thank you, Tyler. Now, Tyler, why should she go and wrestle the strong man?
Well, I mean, if he's still out there to do this again, even after he runs out of kids, he's going to come back and do it again eventually. Why would you continue to let him make this act?
Okay, so it's a big risk. You think it is more important for her to go wrestle the strongman because it's maybe the only way you know to stop it. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, good job. Everybody give Tyler a hand. Okay, good. All right, anybody else? Anybody else? Oh, I'm going over here. Or you want to go? Bethany, you want to go? All right, why should the woman rescue the strongman? This is Bethany, right? Everybody give Bethany a hand. Okay.
I think she'll eventually get tired, and then those kids will drown anyway. So if there's going to be drowning kids when she runs up there, she might as well take care of the problem.
So it's a question of effort, okay? If she's going to be expelling energy, saving the kids, she might as well use that energy to stop it. Is that kind of what you're saying, right? She'll get tired eventually. Okay, good. Everybody give Bethany a hand. Okay. All right. Anybody else whose point of view has not been represented? All right, I got Taryn back here. All right, I'll go get Taryn. Hold on. All right. Now, Taryn, do you think this is Taryn, everybody? Everybody give Taryn a round of applause. Okay. All right. All right, Taryn, what do you think she should do? Should she keep rescuing the kids, or should she rescue the strongman? Rescue the strongman.
Well, I think she should wrestle the strongman because saving the kids continuously is just a temporary solution to the problem. Whereas if you go after the strongman, I mean, I know it will be hard and challenging, but at least the problem will be solved at the root. And we've seen multiple times in history where we've had problems with like justice, and we've lost people because of it, but we've still solved the problem.
Okay, so the sacrifice of the children floating in the river is worth stopping the source of the problem. Is that right? Okay, good deal. Everybody give Taryn a round of applause. All right. Now, so we've got this whole thing, and we've got a dilemma, okay? So you all had some really good reasons for either going to wrestle the strongman or saving the children. But I want you to pay attention to this little piece of it, right? I mean, it's no small thing, the fact that in going up to wrestle the strongman, it might not work. She doesn't know if it's going to work. It's a big risk to do it. And it's important, you know, by making that choice to go and wrestle the strongman, you were allowing the children to float away. Now, we hope that this has never happened in human history in exactly this way. Maybe it has, I don't know, that there's been a strongman on a bridge throwing children into the river. But in a metaphorical sense, it certainly has happened. And so this is a way to think about the distinction between charity and justice, okay? Going in, rescuing the children that are in the river, that's a form of charity. You are solving an immediate need that is very important. Very, very, very important. Those kids are going to drown if you don't do something about it. It's very important. Okay, but it's not justice. It's not justice. Justice would be to solve the source of the problem and to find a sense where the child isn't thrown in the river in the first place. Right? So this is a way to think about it. And it's not a perfect story, and it's not exactly how things work all the time, but it's close enough. And imagine for a second, I want everybody to imagine what it would feel like to be that woman. Okay, to be standing on the shore of a river and to see children floating and then to see the strongman. And you're caught between these two things. How awkward would that be? To use a word that is very important to certainly the millennials and the zennials and whoever else, you know, that's awkward. He's just really awkward. People say that a lot, right? It would feel awkward. You don't know what to do. And certainly this happens with any number of different issues. Take hunger, for example. Take hunger. So you know that there are hungry families in a community. You feed them, right? You give them cans of food every day. In Jefferson County, there's a program where kids at the end of the week are given a bag of groceries sometimes to go home for the weekend, so the family has food for the weekend. That's a thing that happens around here. It's much more difficult to ask questions about where food comes from and why can't people afford food? Why don't people have enough jobs to feed their family? Why don't people have transportation to go to grocery stores? It's difficult. It's an awkward place to be in because you can't solve hunger just by feeding people. Not forever. You can't do it. But I want to suggest to you that even though we've characterized charity as the children floating down the river, right, that justice itself, striving toward justice, can also be an act of love. Cornel West, the philosopher and theologian, has a saying, and I emailed him one time because I know somebody who knows him, and I asked him where he wrote this down, and he said he couldn't remember, but he says it all the time, okay? And the saying is, justice is what love looks like in public. A lot of times growing up in the church, we are taught that our way to interact in the world and to make it a better place and to serve God is to do these individual acts of charity. And you don't want to devalue that. It's very necessary. If you've ever been hungry, I know some of you in this room have come from situations of poverty and you've needed help at various times. And that was really important, right? You don't want to devalue charity because it is very important. But it doesn't solve the problem. And it can be just as loving for people to go into the public sphere and look at larger systems of oppression and fight them and speak up about what's wrong with them. That can be an act of love. Just as Cornel West says, it's what love looks like in public. And so you might ask yourself, what are some ways that I can do that? Go and advocate for a policy that you think is right and just in this country. Everybody here, we participate in a democracy. You have an opportunity to go vote every year. You have an opportunity to write and contact your congressmen and congresswomen and talk to them all the time. Every day, if you wanted to, you could write those people and bug them and call them on the phone if you care about it, because you live in a democracy, and that's really cool. Justice might involve a form of protest. You remember the people in Ferguson, no justice, no peace, walking around the city. We could have probably lots of disagreements about how effective or ineffective that was, right? But it got everybody to pay attention to it and to think about the relationship between racism and the execution of law enforcement. Very important issues. I know a lot of people who are cops, and they agree that they're very important issues. So these are larger structures. And there are a couple of quotes, too. And sometimes this can all feel kind of overwhelming. We can look at these larger issues of oppression and hunger and racism and all these things that are wrong. And we can ask ourselves, well, what can I do? And sometimes you can't do everything, right? But a way into it might be the Mother Teresa method. And these are a couple of quotes that Shane Claiborne brings up quite a bit. Mother Teresa said to Shane when he was leaving, and he felt badly that he was leaving, he felt like he should stay in Calcutta instead of go back to Philadelphia. Shane, by the way, is from East Tennessee. He's from Maryville. His family has a farm out in Greenback, if those of you know that area. Mother Teresa said to Shane Claiborne, there are Calcuttas everywhere if we would have the eyes to see them. There are Calcuttas everywhere if we would have the eyes to see them. I don't know if you realize it, right? And it's okay if you don't, because we have a lot of things going on in our lives. But I don't know if you realize it, but you are sitting in a place that deals with immense poverty in Jefferson County. In Jefferson County, 1 in 2 kids are on free and reduced lunch in our entire county. In the city, that rate goes up. Which means if you see a kid running around who's under the age of 18, 1 in 2 of them has a family that's living below the poverty line. Jefferson County, I heard from a colleague recently, has the highest rate of drug-exposed babies in the entire state. Largely opioids. From where you're sitting, just in a 2-mile radius around our campus, there are 4 Section 8 housing units, low-cost housing units. And in order to live in Section 8 housing, you have to have an income that is below the poverty line. They're kind of tucked away. There's one behind Big Lots. There's one kind of beyond the intramural field. There's one behind KFC, and there's one up on Interstate 92. Okay, you wouldn't see them, right? And a lot of times when I was a student here, I found myself, I would just drive to and from Taco Bell. Very important, right? Taco Bell. You drive to and from Taco Bell. You drive to and from Walmart. In those days, and I get to sound like an old person, we drive to and from Blockbuster. Spent a lot of time at Blockbuster. May it rest in peace, right? Blockbuster stores. Okay. You go back and forth. We didn't have Redbox or Netflix, y'all, and our internet was so slow we couldn't watch anything on there. So, and in doing that, you just live your life. You do your homework. You do all these things. You miss what the immense situation that we're in here in Jefferson County. Jefferson County is a beautiful place. There's a great history of music and culture and vibrant people and businesses and churches. The churches here are very active in our county. It's a wonderful place to live. But there's also great hardship. Okay? There are Calcuttas everywhere if we would have eyes to see them. Mother Teresa also said this: not all of us can do great things, but we can do small things with great love. Maybe you feel like you don't know enough, for example, about the immigration crisis to go protest. Maybe you feel like you don't know enough about voter suppression in the South to write your congressman about it. Maybe you feel like you don't know enough about that, but you can do something. You can do something. And even if you can't do great things, you can't go and wrestle a strong man, you can do a small thing with great love. And in the process of doing that, if you pay attention and you commit to learning about these larger systems and structures of injustice, you have an opportunity to learn more about them. That's a way in. Because even if we can't understand some of these heady concepts, retributive and social justice, structural inequality, mass incarceration, the school-to-prison pipeline, all these different things that are facing our country, even if we can't completely understand them, we can have a conversation with somebody and learn about their experience. Not all of us can do great things, but we can do small things with great love. So I've got a list of a few things that you can do here at Carson-Newman, and this is not a perfect list, and you all might have some ideas, okay? You all might have some ideas. And I'm going to end a little bit early, so if you have ideas that you want to bring to the group of how people can get involved, you'll have the opportunity to do that, okay? But here are a list of some things that you can do at Carson-Newman. And those of you, how many of you are LA 101 students? Hands up. All right, good. Most of you, right? Okay, good. So you all are signed up to participate in a service learning activity, and for many of you, that'll be Operation Inasmuch on this Saturday, okay? Starting at 8 o'clock. So Operation Inasmuch is a great opportunity because, you know, you're only working for 2 or 3 hours, right? But it's a chance to really go and learn about an organization and what they're doing and pay attention to that organization. See, I know what I did. I said they were leaving early, so they started packing up. I know it's hard. Okay, so participate in Operation Inasmuch. Another thing you can do is you can get involved at the Bonner Center. I think at the Carson-Newman Bonner Center, which if we were looking out this window, we would see it there. We have a beautiful new roof, thanks to the maintenance department this summer. It's a light blue structure. We've got a garden in the back. You get involved at the Bonner Center. You might be thinking, well, they have scholarship programs, and I'm not in any of those programs. If you come to the Bonner Center and you want to be helpful and you want to work on social justice and you want to work in the community, we will find somewhere for you to work. Okay? There's no shortage of places for you to go and work. So try to get involved at the Bonner Center. Next, pay attention to the local news. Remember when the woman was walking through the forest, she heard the child, right? She was open to hearing what was going on in her surroundings. When we look at national news, we hear all these large, big-scale things. It's hard to think about it. How does what somebody does in New York City relate to me here in Jefferson City? Pay attention to your local news. Read the Standard Banner, read the Citizen Tribune, read the Knoxville News Sentinel, and get a sense of what's going on in the area. Shop at local stores and restaurants. Try to keep our dollars in the community so that we build our tax base and help some of the social services that make lives easier in the area. Go on spots trips, okay, for spring break and over fall break. Are we doing fall break trips this year, Chad, or just spring break? We got a thumbs up on fall break trips. Okay, so you have an opportunity at Carson-Newman during your breaks to go and serve at different organizations, do mission work, sometimes do direct service. We've often done disaster relief efforts. Okay? Register to vote and know your candidates. In the MSAC and in the cafeteria next Monday and Tuesday, our civic engagement team at the Bonner Center is going to have another voter registration drive. The History and Political Science Department already did a voter registration drive on Constitution Day. If you missed that, you'll have an opportunity to register to vote. You don't have to be from Tennessee. We will have resources there for everybody around the country to figure out how they can vote, whether absentee or otherwise. So register to vote. Know your candidates. Consider spending a summer like Shane Claiborne did and going somewhere and learning and serving and doing work. Spend your summer doing some work out in the community. Learn the history of your community and know kind of what has happened before. And PowerPoint's cut off a little bit. I'll read the last one. And this is just kind of something that's close to my heart as someone who studies literature. Read stories from people from a variety of different races, identities, regions. Maybe you live in a place that doesn't have a lot of diversity. Or maybe you don't really know a lot of people who aren't really like you. Read stories. There are millions and millions of pages of accounts of people whose lives are different than yours. And if you read, you can learn something about them, right? Okay, so this is just a list of different things you can do. One other thing that is on the PowerPoint that I forgot to mention is we are still, as far as I'm aware, accepting donations for disaster relief for Hurricane Florence. Okay, and if you want details about that, it's posted on EagleNet. Now, Ross is right here. How do they continue to donate for Florence relief?
Same way. It's on EagleNet. It's also on DBAN 360.
Okay.
Basically, it's just a one click, and it's a over the internet contribution. It's really 2 clicks on the screen.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Brummett. So there are ways that you can donate money to hurricane disaster relief. So these are some ideas. I'd be welcome to chat with anybody who has any other ideas for ways that we can work, okay? But I want to leave you with one thought, okay? I hear the rustling. One thought. Promise it's the last thing I'll say to you. Remember the woman when she was stuck between the child floating down the river and the strong man up on the bridge. Remember that she was alone. And it would have been much easier for her to do what needed to be done if she had not been alone. Okay? And the job can seem insurmountable, but the more people who are committed to this work, the more likely that things will get better and that we will achieve a sense of justice better than we have now. So thank you all for listening, and have a good day.